Hi, I'm Michelle from Bits and Pieces Paper Lab, and I make SVG files specifically for card makers. Today we're going to be making this vintage car card, and as we're assembling it and working in the software, I'm going to show you one of my favorite techniques for making my own sentiments, like I've got on my card here. That's one of my favorite things to do with my Cricut machine, is to make card sentiments, and I love that you can customize them and make them whatever you want. So let's first jump into the software and I'll teach you that technique, and then we will assemble the card.
Okay, so I've got my file open in Cricut Design Space, and I'm going to show you what you need to do to get ready for cutting. So it's honestly, this file is really simple. The only thing we need to do is change this score line right here to an actual score line. So this is the card base, and this should be a score line rather than a solid line. So when you import the file, it's going to be all grouped. So if you click on any of the elements, you can see that it selects all of them. So to ungroup, we go up here where these two boxes are, and you'll see as you toggle over it, it says ungroup. So we just hit ungroup. And then it's easy as that. The pieces are separate. Now, this card is also grouped together, the score line and the card, those are grouped together as well. So we're going to do the same thing, select that, and then hit ungroup. And that frees the score line from the card base. Now, if we select this score line and head up here under operation, we're just going to do score. And now it's a score line. So because Cricut, if I send this to cut right now, Cricut doesn't know that I want this score line to be exactly on this card base. So I need to let Cricut know how I want this to perform when it's cut. So I'm going to select the score line and I'm going to hit shift and select the card base. And you could also just drag a box around both of them. I've got both of those items selected, and then I'm going to come down here and hit attach. So now when I head to cut, Cricut knows I want this score line exactly in the middle of this card. Now it's going to prompt you to put in your score tool. If you don't have that, it's no problem. This card is, you can easily just do what you normally do to make a card base by cutting out this size and then folding it right down the middle. So it's absolutely not a necessity. I wanted to teach you just a quick technique while we're in the software that I think will be helpful for future card making, and that is to make your own sentiments. This is one of my absolute favorite parts of having a Cricut, is being able to design my own sentiments, because I like customizing them and I like having a lot of choices. Okay, so one of the looks I think looks so cool is when you have capital letters that are kind of chunky and then a scripty font together. I think those just look so cool. And I love the one cut sentiments where you just hit cut once and it will cut for you. So I'm going to show you how I design these. So the first thing I do is let me start by choosing a font that is the bold, all caps, bold, kind of blocky letters. So I've gone ahead and selected text here. Whoops, let's start over here. And I'm going to come up here to font. And now if you choose Cricut fonts, you'll see there's lots of options. Some of them are free, some of them there's a charge for. But if you choose system, these are the fonts that are on your computer. So these are all going to be free because they're actually on your computer. So let's see, I'm going to find one that's nice and scripty. I like this one. All right, we're going to change this to best. Whoops. Let me move this over here. And then I'm going to do wishes, but I need to find a scripty font. So let's see what my choices are here. I love that the Cricut design software kind of shows you a preview so you can get an idea of what you might want. This one's kind of fun. Let's see how that looks. Ooh, I like that one. Okay, so I'm going to just size that down a little. Okay, now I tried to place these so that this word is all connected except for the W, obviously, but the I, S, H, E, S, those are all connected and they will cut in one continuous piece. So I want to try and layer these so that all of the letters are connected. So let me try to explain this. I want these letters down here to be touching these other letters on every single letter. So right now, if I weld this together, the S is going to be kind of standing all by itself. But if I just scooch this wishes over a little bit, now this is touching both the T and the S. The I is touching the E, And then this W right here is touching, looks like it's touching both the B and the E. So that's pretty good. And I'm gonna show you a technique to thicken these. So when we do that, they will be touching. So if you can see what I mean, if right now, if I cut this, everything's kind of touching. So sometimes it's tricky to get this right. You have to kind of increase sizes or shift things around. This one was pretty easy. So I'm gonna select the whole thing. Now this is a pretty thick font, but sometimes you'll choose a font that's really thin and it's just gonna have a really hard time cutting if you cut it as is. So here's a trick to make it one solid piece that's all welded together and is gonna cut. You go up here to offset, and if I start with something that's like a 0.4 is kind of my standard, so I'll do 0.4. I choose the square edge because I like it to be square edge over my block letter. So you can kind of see if I do this, it gets real rounded, whereas this stays square edges. And then you want to do weld offset. So if you have all of those selected, and then you can see the blue preview line shows me. I'm not making a huge offset. This is just like barely offsetting the sentiment, just so that it will cut nice and clean. I'm not going to run into issues. So I like how that looks, and you can obviously like increase this, bump this up. Maybe you do 0.9, it's going to get a lot bigger, but I'm going to try that. Okay, so I like how that looks. So now I can cut like this with the two separate, I could leave it where the words are separate and then there's an offset, but if you go in and just move these off, whoops, and delete them, then you are left with just one solid sentiment, which is really cool. So now this piece is going to cut everything's touching, is going to cut in one continuous piece, and you've just made a new sentiment. So you can do these. You can see here how I quickly created 3 different sentiments for my card. And you can just sit sometime when you just want to design and you're not in the mood to actually create anything. You can just sit and make a whole page of sentiments and be ready for your next crafting session. So I hope that's helpful, and I'm going to go ahead and hit cut on my card project here, and then we're going to move into showing you how to assemble it.
All right, we've got everything cut out and we are ready to assemble the card. First, I wanted to just go over the supplies a little bit. So pretty basic. I've just got what I need to make the card, but I have used some specialty cardstock. I buy all of my cardstock from 12 by 12 Cardstock Shop. They have some really unique papers, so I do love that. First is this Basil Dotted Swiss. It has a raised dot pattern, and I love this just because it's solid cardstock, but it has a little something extra. So that's one of my favorite papers. And then I found some really gorgeous kind of caramel gold glitter. And then you'll notice on my card, the headlights and the mirrors and the bumper are actually mirror foil. And this is from 12 by 12 Cardstock Shop as well. It's a silver mirror foil. So that's one of the things I love to do with my die cuts, is just use specialty papers to make them stand out even more. I think it makes such a difference. You can certainly just use, like a regular gray cardstock for this, but the mirror cardstock just adds something super special. So this is fairly easy to assemble. I've got my card base here, and I did use my score blade to score it and folded it in half. Okay, we're going to get started here by mounting the glitter piece onto the backing. Now, I really love this Verily Arts liquid glue for my paper piecing. I think the fine tip is just really great for getting small little intricate pieces glued down without gluing like you are a kindergartner. That is one of my biggest downfalls. I'm just not a delicate gluer, so I need all the help I can get. All right, next we're going to work on the little car, and it's helpful to look at the picture while you're assembling this. We're going to first put these little side pieces on, and these go tucked up right against the edge. There's kind of already a wheel hub created in the outer cut file, so you're just going to follow along with that. Let's see, this goes that way. Okay. I actually love to paper piece. I think it's so relaxing. I know some people don't, but it's one of my favorite things. And I sometimes, you just feel like being creative, but well, you feel like playing with paper, but you're not really feeling in the mood to be creative. I always feel like playing with paper, and so I'll just like cut out a cut file and put it together. It's something that's pretty low creativity, but I'm still getting to do something I love. And simple styles like this car, or, you know, maybe like a mermaid, just something that's pretty generic that I know I'll eventually use down the line. I just really love to make these. And then I'll just set them aside and have them ready for when I need to use them. All right, so I used some foam pop dots on that, on the little hood part. You can see that part's popped up now. And then we're gonna attach the little bumper. Now this I'm gonna put glue just on these little parts and then hold it down for a second. Working with the foil cardstock is a little bit stressful because your glue, if you smudge your glue, it will show. So you have to be really careful. So let me hold this down just for a second. So apply some pressure till it sticks. And see, it bleed. I told you I'm a kindergarten gluer. Had a little bit too much glue on there though. Okay, no problem, fixed it. Okay, next we're gonna attach the little heart on the front. Now you could put, if you're using the sentiment that's like best wishes or something like that for a wedding, you can use the heart. You could switch out anything or just leave it plain if you wanted to put a little wreath for Christmas or whatever you want to do there. And then the little license plate is next. These pieces are pretty tiny. Now I'm gluing the license plate down to the mirror foil, so I have to be careful that I don't smudge it. Okay, I'll leave it to set. Let me put my little headlights on. You could pop these up with foam if you wanted, but I'm just gonna put them flat. And then these tiny little side mirrors. So let's put just a little glue. There. Stick those on. All right. One of the things that I've done while I'm waiting for that to just dry for a second that I've really loved to do, I grabbed this container from Michael's, and it's like a big case that has a bunch of these in it. So this is kind of how I keep myself organized when I feel like just creating. I'll just cut out a bunch and then stick them in this envelope so I know all the pieces are in here and I can create as I want. So these are some Christmas tags I cut out. Just a little tip to kind of help you keep organized when you've got lots of little pieces and maybe you want to cut out a bunch at one time but not assemble them all at once. So, all right, I think our car is drying nicely. Time to put the wheels on. Now these actually, because the curve of the car goes up, you want to kind of follow that. The wheels are curved as well. So we'll just put a little bit of glue on the top here. And stick that on. Whoops. And then we'll do this side. Hold that for a second. Okay. All right. And now we're ready to assemble this. So I'm going to just glue this. I like to use the foam dots at different places in my card just to kind of give it dimension, but I don't want to foam dot everything or else it gets too thick and too much. So I'm going to glue this piece directly to the card base. All of a sudden my glue is misbehaving. That should be good though. So that goes directly on the card base. And then I'm going to use the foam dots to pop up the car. And let's get those peeled off. Okay. And then the card just goes right in the center of the square. Whoops, one of my wheels got a side of been completely dry. All right, we'll stick that right in the center like that. All right, and then the sentiment I've chosen for this is best wishes. I want this to be a wedding card, so I'm gonna put some glue on this. These tiny little sentiments are actually kind of tricky to glue down, so I just like to use little dots of glue strategically so that it doesn't blob out, but there's enough to keep it stuck down. Okay, so we're gonna center that and push it down. And then I'm gonna use the foam dots just one more time to attach the base, this base piece to the card. Okay, so there you have it. There's our finished card. Very simple. And the cut file will include several different options so you can change out the sentiment based on what you're making the card for. Now, if you notice, this card is a pretty basic design. So if you just take off the car and change out the sentiment, you've got an easy card sketch here that you can use with anything. I could add balloons instead of a car. I could add a dragon or a basketball or anything in the center of the card. Just change out the colors, change out this, and change out the sentiment. But the design itself is a really easy card sketch. And that's one of the ways I love to work making cards, is to find a sketch I love and then change it out. Thanks for joining me today. I hope this has inspired you to make your own card sentiments and to think about card sketches in the way you can switch things out and quickly make them adaptable for any holiday or occasion or theme. Have a great day.